Hello, everybody. This is Fernando for the latest Silent Hill podcast. Well, I have finally seen all of the walkthrough when it comes to the first Silent Hill game, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the videos here with all of the remaining monsters and the remaining bosses. So be on the lookout for that, and I'll probably give some kind of final thought when it comes to the first Silent Hill and separate it to a separate video too. And then I'll go ahead and I'll start watching Silent Hill 2, see how that goes, and then talk about those encounters and creatures there. This particular entity, it actually comes in two versions, and I wanted to talk about both under one video rather than separate them into two, because they really are very synonymous with each other. And what I'm talking about is the entity known as A, the Larval Stalkers, and then B, subsequently known as the Stalker, both encountered within various levels of Silent Hill. And for all intents and purposes, they are one of a kind. They are nothing like any of the other monsters or creatures or almost cryptid-like insects that one encounters within Silent Hill. Rather, these seem to be most commonly associated with ghosts, maybe even spirits. They seem to be the closest thing involving anything paranormal within the game itself. So it's quite fascinating to see the guy that was playing the game encountered these creatures as is. The first one, the Larval Stalker, which you'll see a picture of here again, it's found within the Midwich Elementary School. And its most distinctive feature is the fact that it does not harm the player at all. It certainly looks like it. The first time you encounter any of these things, they come straight at you, just like any of the other monsters within the game. However, they are completely harmless. They just either pass right through the player, or they subsequently just hover around the player almost like in an almost childlike giddy fashion. In some cases they'll purposely like hug around the leg area trying to call attention, maybe like a child would if they're trying to get the attention of a parent. In other cases they'll just walk around near the player's area. Sometimes they're even seen apparently just stumbling and falling like a child would if it's overeager. And one of its most distinctive features is its little chirp. It emits some kind of strange little chirp of some sort, almost like a bird, which denotes that it's almost like an innocent type creature. And the nice thing about it is, with it being so harmless, you cannot do anything towards it, and it in turn cannot do anything towards you. It's just mainly seen as a nice add-on feature within the Silent Hill game. In a way, you can kind of destroy it if you truly wanted to, and in a direct way, all you have to do is just shine your flashlight directly at one of these larval stalkers, and when that happens and you do it for an extended period of time, then the thing will just either stumble or just vanish altogether. And apparently they come back too, but otherwise that's one way of, quote, destroying them altogether. They do emit, though, the standard radio static when you're nearby one, so it gives you a false sense of harm, because all throughout the game, of course, whenever you heard anything involving that radio static, there's danger nearby. But when you see these things and when you see things coming at you, that was the biggest surprise. The idea that these things have no harm altogether. Again, they're just basically little children, little eager, almost giddy children, just trying to call the attention of a parent or an adult. In this case, of course, the only person being there being Harry Mason. Now, what they're supposed to represent, they're supposed to represent the memories of Alyssa during school, because she was very shunned during school, and so that's why they are invisible, or almost invisible, because nobody else was paying attention to her, as if she was almost as invisible as these creatures. And they also have the black coloring to them when you can see them, because it's supposed to represent Alyssa's banished theme. People saw her basically like the black sheep of the school itself, and so when that happened, and metaphorically, that color belongs to these larval stalkers, rather than as opposed to being like standard ghosts like white, like one would imagine anything involving ghosts in movies or anything else. No, but in this case they are black altogether, because of, again, her dark nature, or the dark nature that's associated with her. And then also they represent Alyssa with all of the things that these larval stalkers try to do when it comes to them getting attention from you as the player, because it's supposed to represent her back when she was that age, alive, just trying to get attention from her mother, just craving for any kind of attention, love, affection from a parent. And that's supposed to be like the tragedy that's tied to these larval stalkers as well. Interesting little bit of trivia with regards to the larval stalkers. The gray children were obviously modified from before because they so eerily look like children. Here, the larval stalkers also look like children, but the reason why they stayed in the game as is because you can't kill them. So whenever that was seen by the ratings people that have to do with gaming, they decided to go ahead and keep things as is because they cannot be harmed altogether. But otherwise, that's the first version of the larval stalker. Afterward, when it comes to the larval stalker and you meet them later on in the game, they take on a more sinister role. And what I'm talking about are the regular stalkers, which you'll see a picture of here. And these larval stalkers, when the guy I was watching on the walkthrough encountered them specifically in Nowhere, they turned out to be one of the toughest enemies yet within the game itself. By far, their toughness and their difficultiness comes from the fact that they are much more transparent than the larval stalkers. That picture right there, by the way, is like a good picture when it comes to the regular stalkers and how they look like. Because whenever the guy first encountered them in Nowhere, I could barely see like what he was seeing. Like I didn't realize that all of a sudden he was being attacked. These things are so translucent. You have to catch them. The camera has to be in the right angle. You have to catch that perfect angle in order for anything to be viewed of them. And if you don't do that, then basically you're looking at thin air. And so all it takes is being struck several times to know. Obviously, you'll hear the static, but you'll be struck several times to know which direction that is happening. That's what makes these things so deadly. Because unlike the larval stalker, these stalkers, the regular ones, they do attack. They come straight at Harry, just like the larval stalkers would do. Except this time, they have some kind of invisible knife with them. And whenever they attack, they cause a lot of harm, too. Whenever this guy encountered them, and especially when they were swiping left and right, I saw him quickly having to go into his health pack and realizing he's already down to red. So that's how quickly these things can inflict damage. Basically, they are, again, the same thing as a larval stalker. Same design, same features. They don't emit that kind of chirp from before because these have a much more sinister, evil approach to them. The only thing that can be done with them is because they can harm you, you can in turn harm them. You cannot use your flashlight like the other one with the larval stalker. Instead, with these things, you can straight out shoot them, use guns, use a shotgun, or you can use any of the melee weapons that you have to strike them down. But with them being so invisible and the area, especially that Nowhere area, being so dark, it's very hard to see them, and that again leads to them being so difficult. It's best advised if you do happen to be attacked by these things, especially in a group, to try to isolate yourself somewhere with them one by one. And if you can't do that, then do like the dude did on the walkthrough, and all he did was just run around until he could either escape the area he was in or move someplace else and then try to take them on one by one altogether. Once again, as far as what they're supposed to represent, they represent Alyssa. This time, though, they represent her revenge, because with previously the larval stalkers, they were all giddy with excitement and happiness at having a person nearby them. Here, the regular stalkers, with them so viciously attacking Harry left and right, they're supposed to represent Alyssa's revenge when it comes to her harm. Like whatever happened to her, it now in turn becomes her vengeance. And so it's supposed to represent her basically in full punishment mode. And again, it reflects on how invisible she was to everyone because of how little attention she was paid to. But yeah, these stalkers are absolutely a huge threat, and so whenever they're encountered within the game, especially within Nowhere, they were quite memorable. Very interesting stuff. But yeah, those are the two entities, the regular stalker and then the larval stalker, both found within the game itself. I'll talk about some of the other monsters here in a little bit, so be on the lookout for more videos. So alright everybody, thanks again as always, take care.